So what I'm going to start off with is a quick prayer to set the energies, and we will be off. So I'm going to ask the Supreme Creative Force to come down around this wonderful and beautiful orb that is Mother Earth, and to help all of us to accept all the different information that is coming in on all the many levels that it exists on, so that we can take this information on all these many levels and use it to help create our new reality. So be it. So as you can see, this free webinar today is called Unraveling the Updates. And what I do is start at the macro and work my way down to the micro. So let's begin. This is the Milky Way galaxy, and this is a depiction of it from the astronomy department at Penn State here in the States. And as you can see, from the sun to the galactic bulge of our galaxy, which is a spiral galaxy with 9 arms, and we sit on the edge of one of these arms, which is the Orion arm. And so here we are. You can see ours here in the lower right corner. And this is, of course, 8 kiloparsecs, and a kiloparsec is roughly 3,262 light years. We are roughly about 30, just under 30 light years from the bulge to us surrounding the sun here. And so it's 30 kiloparsecs, or roughly 100,000 light years from one end of the galaxy to the other. And at the middle is the galactic bulge. So we've got that. Now let's go into the micro. I'd like to start off with ships, so let me emphasize this point because this is a very key point for me. The mass landings are the key to all that is to follow. This is the watershed. There's the time when the great landings happen, and before that disclosure, and when we go after that, when we have the announcements, when we have mentors, when we begin to see how exactly we can move toward full consciousness. The key to that are these wonderful beings. This is ships. This one is a mothership over Mexico. This was taken, a picture, on April 14th, 1998. This is the, down below you can see the mountains. This is the Sierra Madre Occidental, and this is the ship moving across. And down below is the city of Monterrey. Now, here's another one. This is an Arcturian scout craft, which was photographed near Tijuana, Mexico, in June of 2012. And remember, the first contact is inevitable and imminent. Now let's look at PAO, the Planetary Activation Organization's mission. Now, this organization, PAO, the Planetary Activation Organization, PAO, was established in 1997 in Maui, Hawaii, to support me and my threefold mission. And this is the basic mission. One is to prepare the world for first contact with the Galactic Federation of Light. I've been emphasizing that in my updates and everything I do for a long time, to spread the message of the Galactic Federation of Light. One of the things that I am is to be a messenger for the Galactic Federation. And to establish, we had at one time, it's kind of in lapse right now, but after we have the landings, I want to set it up again, which is to establish a network of planetary activation groups around the world. Now, the symbol for the Galactic Federation on its first contact mission, and therefore the symbol for the Planetary Activation Organization, is the Umakdan, which you see here. And Umakdan simply means a symbol of creation. Umak is creation. Dan means symbol. So let's look at it. And our logo you can see down below is peace and inner strength through unity. Now the reason why we want to use the Umakdan, one of the things I want to eventually do is to have a 3D animation, a successful 3D animation that allows people to really get a good idea of how this thing looks when it's spinning. All these things spin counterclockwise to one another. And so let's look at the parts of it. The Umakdan is the Galactic Federation symbol of the Sirian star system. It is the emblem that activates, intensely activates all humans. When and all beings actually, when I would watch conversations going on between one group and another, one of the things they said that made it easy was because the intensity of everything around them was increased. It made it impossible to lie, and telling the truth and being happy about telling the truth and being one with one another happened while the holograph of the spinning of the Umakdan happened. So let's look at what it consists of. Each part of the Umakdan is symbolic. First you have in the middle here the major thing, which is the gold star tetrahedron, which is a six-pointed star. It represents the essence of all sentient life and creation. And then you have this wonderful silver cross. And the silver cross, and then around it these sights, they represent the manifestation of spirit into matter and its victory over darkness. And then the silver and gold circles, which you see here on the outside of the circle, they represent the silver and gold aspects of the male and the female principles. Now, the final part, which is the big part for me, is the purple field, which symbolizes God's holy creation. This sacred part in Sirius, I'll give a little aside here, is the blue light of the Blue Lodge, which represents creation. The Blue Lodge's light is a very light to very dark purple, but it's called the Blue Lodge because blue represents the energies of creation. The actual movement of creation is purple. So the blue light of the Blue Lodge occurs in Sirius, and when you come there you get to see it and you get to feel the energies of Sirius, especially around Sirius B. It is just amazing. And I've been there and I can tell you it's incredible. Now, to promote our role as physical angels and earth stewards, and this mainly is going to be something that happens now when we get into complete contact and have the landings, planetary activation groups work in coordination with PAO. PAGs are inwardly guided and actively involved in awakening people to the global transformation in consciousness. One of the things that I want to have done eventually is to have a worldwide network again of PAGs, be able to completely communicate with them at all times and be able to put communications backwards and forwards so that we can be in complete communications with one another. We can get to know one another better. And we can finally begin to actually do projects that are meaningful in which our communities acknowledge the meaningfulness of them. Now, if you want to get an idea of what I'm all about and what one of the main missions of PAO, Planetary Activation Organization, a nice book that I wrote a little while ago, it's simply called Salamat Jah, which, as you already know, simply means to be in joy in Syrian, a guide for galactic humans. And here you can see the cover. So you can get that from us if you need to. I hope you do. Now, purpose of Galactic Federation updates. Why am I writing these things? First of all, these messages are sent every week to me by a committee of 20. There are 50 to 100 members on the board. It's recently been increased to 100. It originally was 50. And 20 of them show up every week and give me a message for everybody to have. The purpose of these messages we'll be getting into shortly. So, let's talk about me. We talked about, people may say, who am I? What am I about? Why do I do this? Now, when I was a kid, and I mean a kid, like 3, 2, I had a mentor from Sirius, who was Washta. And Washta told me from the time that I was a little kid to the time that I finally decided to have them leave for a while. I was about 15. I was in high school, beginnings of high school. And I thought I could bring this science that I had been taught up in the ships. We'll get into the learning system in a little bit. And take this and integrate that with earth science and create a new science, a new physics, a new paradigm, and help people to get a better understanding of what conscious science is really all about. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, so I had them leave, and then I found out that science really, at least those that are Newtonians, did not like it. And in case you're wondering what a Newtonian is, it's a person who believes in the science as set up the mechanics of Newton. So what we're doing is we're creating in these messages a wake-up call, a sign for humanity that the conscious things that they are feeling within their bodies, where their philosophical background no longer seems able to conquer the process of who and what they are, that they need to develop something new, a new paradigm. So my job with these updates is to offer them that, to show them that there are different concepts and give them a little smattering of some of the things that I talk about in my lectures and our webinars, so that they have an idea of it all. If they believe in what I'm doing and want to know more, they then have an access point, so they can look it up on our website and move forward. So this is a wake-up call, but more than that, it just happened to me. Let's talk about the beginning of my life after I left. It all started in 1986. And what happened then was there was a little thing called Halley's Comet. By that time in the 80s, I was busily involved in alternate energy research. I was doing everything Tesla. I was developing actual energy machines. The decade before, I had actually developed an energy machine, and it didn't work for this guy, but it worked later. I showed the drawings and things to people, and in Canada they got a machine, and of course the Canadian government squashed it. But what's important is not that. I was in a network, a worldwide network of people who were doing science, it was kind of like a science communication system. All of us, believing in the weird stuff of science, got together and began using our abilities and who and what we know to try to find out what's really going on out there. And so one of the things we discovered was that there was this fleet of ships coming. And there was a companion comet to Halley's Comet, which is called Wilson's Comet. So the big question in the mid-1980s was, which of these two comets was coming in first? Was it Comet Halley or was it Comet Wilson? So we decided to try to find out. So we got a hold of a lot of very high scientists who are very closely associated with government, major governments of this world, Canada, Australia, Britain, etc., United States. And we began asking them severely personal questions about what's going on in the world. And at first they were a little hesitant, but then we got a few other people in our system, our little network, that discovered that actually the CIA and the FBI and a whole bunch of other organizations were very interested in what was about to happen. So we began asking, and we discovered that this particular Comet Wilson coming in first was not really a comet. It was a ship, a giant ship. And so we began looking around. We discovered through various people who were associated with their family was involved in the CIA, FBI. And of course, what I found out about the World Trade Center in 1986 was verified when they knocked it down. But that's another side story. But what it did was eventually, by following this, I wound up at the time actually being able to go up to Shasta, and I discovered in Reading this guy who was actually involved with the Syrians, and he basically connected me back up to Washta. And suddenly he was in my head again. The whole concept was there. They began describing what they had actually been doing for the previous 20 years. And they explained to me very, 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 very detailed what they expected and what they were doing. And so all of a sudden I was back up, and this thing they said was they needed to train me in a lot of things that had happened in those 20 years, and they said that the late 1980s were going to be that into the early 1990s, and when they were ready, they would create the circumstances for me to start lecturing, and that's exactly what happened. I started my first lectures in 1992 in Seattle. And then I started lecturing, and I came back to the Bay Area where I was living at the time. I discovered that there were people that wanted deeply to hear what I had to say and really appreciated what I was doing. So I then got to the point where I wrote my first book. And I'll just keep it simple, or I could be talking for the next hour just on this, so I'm not going to do that. So anyway, after that, certain things happened. I wound up in Hawaii, and in 1997, November 1997, a bunch of people had been supporting me, came together with me and asked me, and that's what I did. I created the Planetary Activation Organization. And the purpose of all of it was to distribute the updates in other places, including mainly our new website on the internet, and to carry out my mission. I did lecturing and a few other things. Now, this is the question that whether the first time or the second time when they came back, why did they choose me? Now, as I just said, when I was a kid, I spent most of my childhood, every night I was up on the ships. So since I was a toddler, like I said, when I was 2 or 3, the minute I could walk, so probably closer to 2, and I had teaching, learning experiences aboard craft, mainly one craft, a Syrian mothership that had washed on it. My sister Susan and I were mutually convinced, because both of us went up all the time, that we were really raised by our space family, the Syrians. And we exchanged experiences, and we both have, in our own way, discovered that how we verify one another, which really makes me happy. So this is kind of approximation of Washta. He actually looks a little differently than that, and his eyes are a lot bigger. Syrian's eyes are almost about, it seems like to me, 1 and maybe 3/4, 1.5, twice as big. It depends on the being, as we are. The same thing for a lot of the Pleiadians and the Andromedans. The first thing you notice is not only that the eyes are bigger, but you notice the energies. And the energies are full of love and caring, and they just totally disarm any anger. I mean, you can go up there, and I did it a lot because I had a very violent childhood because of my dad. My dad was a former professional boxer and manager, and he was a raging alcoholic, not alcoholic, excuse me, a rageaholic. He was a tremendous rageaholic, and he beat me up something fierce every time. He even killed me a few times, and was totally amazed when I came down the next morning alive. As a matter of fact, in better condition than he had left me, of course. And the reason for that was that the Syrians would, whenever that happened, would take me up. They'd put me in a circle of 12, and they would force me back into my body, and then they would vivify the body even stronger than before, and I would get up, and there I was lying on this wonderful bed, almost like floating, and they were around me, and they just completely brought me back, got me together, and the minute they saw that I was together again, they would get me tired, and I would wake up that morning in my bed. And one of the things that I discovered was that this further freaked out my dad. My dad got to the point where whenever I was around, he just got crazy. I discovered that. It amazed me. So I had a feeling when I was on planet Earth as a kid, 3, 4, 5, 6, that this planet was not very nice. I had a kindergarten teacher who believed that she was free because she had one more year till she retired, and the teachers union had basically guaranteed her retirement, so she didn't care about the rules anymore. So what she did with everybody, if you did anything wrong, she shook you for a good minute. I mean, she shook you like you were a rag doll. So I did not like that. And then when I was in first grade, I had a teacher who both her parents had died during World War II in the concentration camps. I had a thick, thick German accent. I would always talk to her half German and half English, and she would just completely go nuts. I would open my mouth, and out would come that big, thick ruler of hers and bang over the knuckles. And it got so bad that my uncle, who was a lawyer, a very good lawyer, and my mother went all the way to the school board and screamed and yelled about it. And they said they couldn't allow me to leave her but they would automatically, because I was just failing everything, and my mother could not understand it because I was reading 6th grade texts. So she did not understand at all what was happening. So they forced me to be conditionally into 2nd grade, and I just kept going until finally I got to 6th grade and I blossomed. But the key point was that, to me, this was ridiculous. And whenever I would tell people what happened to me at night, the kids would ridicule me. So I did not feel very good. By the time I was in 3rd grade, I had a stutter that was so bad in school that I could not in any way talk in school. But when I'd leave school, I'd have no stutter. And this also confused my mother. But that's the way it is. I just did not feel at home on planet Earth. Let's put it that way. Whoops. So, as I said, I was educated by the Syrians' marvelous educational technologies. So I'm going to show you a little picture in a second. In histories, philosophies, and the sciences. The purpose was to be able to work well. And one of the things that I picked up was their telepathic abilities. I had the ability to just sit in a room, and I could turn on and off who anybody was talking and see exactly what they were up to. And then I could insert my mind into them, and I could creatively figure out what was going on with them and go from there. To the point where I could have a conversation. Some people thought at first it was their conscience talking. It was me. And I got into a problem once when I felt very sorry for one kid, and I thought that teaching him how to pass this mathematics exam was very important for him, and I wound up getting suspended. And then when the guy realized that I was on the other side of the room and I'd never moved, and it was therefore impossible for me to tell him what was going on, they then left me alone. So after 2 days, I was back in school. But that's just another incident that I did not appreciate with. And then I had the ones where I was in junior science programs in the United States. And I had one guy at this program that I attended in Dow Chemical in Western New York. And I was solving a polymer question for them. I was doing it magnificently. They thought that I was some great scientist who had been assigned by Dow to them. They turned around, saw it was a 11-year-old kid, and they immediately had me leave. And that was the end of my junior science program. So anyway, I was constantly going up to the ships, and they would take me through the ship and the little entourage that Washta had. And they would take me to this huge room. I mean, it looked like the greatest ballroom you could possibly think of in some huge hotel. And they would sit me in this chair, this magnificent chair, and you'd sit in that chair, and you would completely be one with the chair. You didn't feel like you were sitting in a chair. It almost felt like it was so comfortable, you felt like you were floating in air. It did not feel like you were sitting in a chair. And they would turn on this machine. It was on the wall, and it would be pulsing. And it would bring you completely, because it had a time travel, it would put you in history. So I would be back in American history. I'd be like a fly on the wall, and I could see everything. So the rapid light pulsing, as it says here, coming from the wall, contained information received through the closed eyes. And so I would finish with this, and then they would walk me back across the ship. Now, what they told me and what is happening right now is very simple. There's a great shift in consciousness is now happening to our planet and to all of us. What is this, and how is it manifesting? It's a change in our physical, mental, and emotional consciousness. New chakras are coming in. Our RNA DNA is changing. Now, these events, these changing in our system and everything related to it, were first told to me by my galactic contacts. And later they've been verified by science and the media. I even saw newspaper articles where they talked about babies being born with 3-strand RNA DNA and multi-strand RNA DNA in adults. So it's happening. So as I said, when I would finish, I'd be to this huge room where they had beds. I started calling it the mattress factory. So Washta would be there. I would lay down. He would give me a telepathic message, and then he would put me in a kind of almost like a suspended state. And only thing I would feel is like you were falling quickly in an elevator, going down. You'd feel this kind of queasy feeling for about 2 minutes, and then bang, I would wake up, and I'd be in my bed again. And another event at the ship had occurred. So one of the things that I did all the time, because I wanted to show my fellow students at school that I was not mad and that I was indeed different. So one of the things you would get after you left the learning and the learning center, they would give you this little cube, this little blue cube, and it would float. You'd put it in your pocket, but it really wouldn't go to the bottom of the pocket like you would with anything else, like a marble or something. It would always float right around the near top of the pocket. And they would know you had it or not. You could not lie or try to pretend you didn't do anything with them, because one of the things that they have is the ability, because they are so telepathic, they can go into your mind and pick up any incident you've had recently and completely pick it up out of your mind and know exactly what you're doing. So every time I came to the edge of going to the mattress factory, Washta would turn to me and he would say, "Give the cube back." And I'd say, "What cube?" And then he would just use his energy and it would just float out. And so I'd be in my hand and I'd just give it to them. So I never got anything. Or if it was anything else, like these badges and pins they gave me, they would know immediately that I was trying to do the same thing. And they said, you don't need any proof. Proof can get you into trouble. Just be who you are, accept who you are, and if people don't understand what you're doing, just know this is not for now, it's for later. I didn't quite buy that, but that was me. Now, one of the things Washta would do every so often, he'd go along these huge hallways, and these amazing windows would open up. Now, these were really walls that the energy transformed. They could do things like create holes in doors and or in walls and walk right through them. They didn't really do that as something extraordinary. To them it was normal. It was just like we would wake up in the morning and walk through the door and go downstairs. They wouldn't do that. They could teleport wherever they wanted using their minds. So one of the things he would do, he'd be explaining something about propulsion or something like that, and he would just go to the window and you'd see a ship leaving. This is this over here. Let me find my little friend here. This is a Syrian scout ship leaving the ship. And so it was amazing to me, all that they did. And this world of angelic beings with all their light and love, and even the ship was like that, allowing me there, allowing me to be a part of who and what they were and are, was how I grew up. I grew up understanding and expressing about love. So even though my dad beat me up all the time, I didn't have any real great hatred, which amazed my dad. My dad was always looking for me to say something. So it got to the point where if I would say boo, he would chase me. But that was then. When I was finally around 12, I was strong enough, as I was into baseball. And bingo, he went to hit me and I just grabbed that hand and he could not move it. And that was the end of me being worried about getting beaten. But then the oral abuse began at massive levels. Anyway, enough of that. Now, how do I receive these updates? Now, one of the things that they do is they put a bunch of psychic, which means ethereal implants, as well as physical ones. So what I do is, at the appointed time, I take dictation from this committee of 20. And they usually change this committee's members around, different members of the First Contact Board. And then the day after that, I receive a message from a group of 3 appointed Ascended Masters. So I get to meet the Ascended Masters in the First Contact Board every week. It's kind of cool. Now, when I see them, they're in my mind's eye, and it is like they're standing in front of me. It's 3D holographic projection. I get absolutely perfect sound, absolutely perfect picture. It's in color. If they want to do anything, decide it. So I'm taking dictation, and of course, I'm not a secretary type. I am the Mr. Hunt and Pack, Mr. One Finger Miracle Typist. So I'm always looking down at the screen, and the other thing that I see is them in my mind's eye. So I look down and I'm typing, and they do things. And so there's a spell checker on the computer, but what they do, sometimes there's words that aren't changed, and so they fix it. So I'm always used to seeing when they get a little bit disappointed that I'm such a bad speller, and which is kind of odd. My mother always said that good readers should always spell. I guess I kind of, in my older age, am a discountenance of my mom's belief. But anyway, they make sure that I get things spelled properly. So after that's done, I take the completed message. I use the spell checker on it. I check it myself. I read it aloud, and then I send the message out for editing. So you may wonder when I say the Galactics, okay, the Ascendant Masters, who are they? The Ascendant Masters are transcendent beings who are teachers of mankind from the realms of spirit. They came down here on Earth, went through lifetime after lifetime, worked very hard, understood the nature, what it takes to become enlightened, finally reached a point in one of their lives where they became enlightened. And there are over 1,000 of them. And they are all dedicated to one thing. These are immortal beings, just like angels. They reached physical angel status when they became enlightened, and that's what enlightenment that you hear about many times, like with Buddha, is no more than one thing. It's merely ascension. Many people wonder about ascension. What is it? Ascension is simply this process. What we're going to have happen to us is that this process of ascension, this shifting over, this melting together of all your bodies, your spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical bodies are all going to come together, and you're going to become like the Ascended Masters, incredible beings of light. Now, as it says here, I was given in the 1990s a special set of implants. This technology is designed to give me access to the ships, as I said, via true 3D image. So they can be walking around with me, and I can see them 360. It's just like you're there. They'll walk down a hallway. We'll go through walls. The nice thing about going through walls, which they do, is when you're seeing the system, you go automatically through, because their mind energies is guiding what I'm seeing through my implants. It's really cool. And the last step is, after I finished editing, it goes over to get edited to make sure it's okay, and then it's sent back to me, and I send it out then after I look at it again to the webmaster, and that becomes the updates every Tuesday night. Now, if you want to get a better idea what the ships are like, I have a DVD, which is simply Sheldan Nidle takes you on a personalized tour of a Syrian mothership, and it explains all of that plus much more, and there's all kinds of illustrations. Now, let's go through the purpose of the updates. What is it all about? So, let's get some important terms defined first so we're all on the same page. First of all, the thing I talk about all the time, left and right, are the announcements. The announcements are no more than broadcasts by a new governance to explain how they're going to implement their various programs. And these programs include the end of the income tax, because here in this country it's illegal, the new financial and monetary system, debt forgiveness, the return of common and constitutional law. They will release sequestered technologies to cure disease and solve the energy crisis. And Earth's Ascendant Masters will be releasing vast funds to set up a permanent prosperity for all. The purpose of all this, all these announcements, is simply to explain to people that some great change has happened, and this is why, and this is what's going to happen. Now let's look at the Galactic Federation of Light is what is going to, these governments are going to disclose. What is it? The Galactic Federation of Light, as it says here, is a light union created over 4 million years ago by various stellar civilizations in this galaxy. Its divine purpose is to act as physical angels needed to carry out our divine fate prophesied long ago for the Milky Way galaxy. This galaxy is now in the midst of turning from darkness into light. The darkness aspect is what is called Anchara, the Anchara continuum. What the continuum was doing was spreading darkness. It was creating life, what I call Anchara's children, across the galaxy. And they came together in what's called the Anchar Alliance, and they were doing mayhem and conquering and all the stuff you've seen in all those bad movies. I was addicted to flying saucer movies when I was a kid. I drugged my mother to every one of them. We would get on a bus and drive off to the movie theater and get back on afterwards. And I know she probably didn't understand anything about it, but she just totally supported me in that. I really appreciated that. Now, what these new governments are going to do that will help the Galactic Federation out, because its job is to, as I said, introduce a mass first contact, is actual disclosure. Disclosure is no more than the official statement by the new governance that the Galactic Federation of Light is indeed benevolent and that a first contact mission is to happen shortly. What they will do after all this disclosure happens, after all the stuff we've just talked about is implemented by these new governments, they will then have their own announcements where they explain about first contact, they explain about how we are going to become fully conscious, and we start a process of talking to one another. That's very important to us, and they know it's very important. It's very important to them that we come together, that we understand what's happening. We realize that this is something that heaven has prophesied. We have to return to full consciousness. And do it so, not in decades or centuries, but very closely. Shortly is the word they like to use now. That's their word of words right now. So that means mass landings, like you see here. This is a wonderful diagram of it. They will come down. They will greet us. They will allow us to go inside and see their ships. And more than that, they want to start a dialogue between themselves and ourselves. This is part of a mentoring process that will allow all of us to see and know them and get a better idea of what is about to happen to us, because it's not just a change in consciousness that's happening. It's not just a shift in the planet. It's about a change into a whole new reality, a change in consciousness, a change in how our society is put together. The perceptions we've grown up with are going to completely change. All of this is about a massive alteration in who and what we are. Now here's another one, first contact. As I said, you just saw the picture of the actual mass landing by the Galactic Federation of Light. We've explained about the Ascended Masters. I want to just read it again so you understand these are incredible beings of light. Beings of light who have had past lives on Earth, during Earth time, achieved full consciousness of highest level. They became fully conscious, so they were able to merge their spirit and body into the universal oneness of spirit and transcended all the elements of physical creation. This oneness created an angel-like being who broke the strictures of karma and was able to serve as holy examples for all humanity. Ascended Masters now serve on holy councils that assist humanity with its present ascension process. They are here for us. They are always around us in one way or another. The thing that will happen that's different is they can now precipitate their physical essence and talk to us directly. That will happen after all these changes occur, after the ships come down, etc. This will allow all of us to have not only the wisdom that the Galactic Federation mentors will give us, but also the amazing wisdom and example set by the Ascended Masters. And of course, with this will come something else that a few of the Ascended Masters were responsible for, which they made as their main mission. And that is the bringing up of several world trusts with which Saint Germain and Kuan Yin established, and allow all of us around this planet to be one with all that's happening. And then you'll be able to know, be able to see, be able to experience on all levels what we're talking about. And as you do that, you will begin to see what a tremendous and incredible gift all of this is. Now, how do we get there? What is the stuff we're talking about? Okay, first thing I'm saying, it's things that you never thought of before. Now, this is the civilian flag of the United States. Its present version is a 50-star flag. Way back in the 1780s, the federal Congress established the flag. The flag was established as a civilian flag and a so-called barracks flag. The barracks or military flag is the one everybody knows. It's the one with the regular stripes, stars and stripes. This one has vertical stripes, not horizontal ones. They're the same 13 red and white as we're used to on the flag. The only difference is this is for a civilian administration, not a military one, not a statute law one. This is about common law and civilian authority. And so the canton in the corner is not blue, it's white. The flag stars are not white, they're blue. And you can see representations of this flag all through the history of the United States. You can see it in the Customs Authority. You can see it in the original Coast Guard. You can see it in any flag of the United States government that represents civilian authority. Since we are moving from a military government, a government of statute, a government that is de facto to a de jure civilian government, which is what the Constitution talks about, this is the true flag. Now this true flag represents a civilian government. So how do we get from A to B? In other words, how do we get from this present de facto government, this present government that is really a regular corporation, a private corporation? The federal government, it's not really our government. It's something else. But we'll get into that later. I just want to introduce it to you. The first thing is NSARA. NSARA does a whole bunch of things, and let's start going through it. Let's look at these 6 things one by one. First of all, we have debt forgiveness. It zeroes out all credit card balances, forgives all mortgages, and any other bank debt as a remedy for 90 years of bank and government fraud. It plans to maintain a thriving banking system, and that's included within NSARA, and this is the second one which talks about that. We get rid of the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is about as federal as FedEx. As a matter of fact, there was a case a few years ago in which people put an FOIA on it, means Freedom of Information Act. So what happened was they fought it in court, and the way they fought it in court, the Federal Reserve said, we are not a government agency, we are a private agency. We do not therefore fall under the FOIA. And they won. So what does this prove to you? Yes, the U.S. Treasury Bank will be a true bank. It will be a bank of the people. It will be a public bank. It will be a member of the federal government. The present Federal Reserve is a private bank. And what does it do? It takes the illegal taxes that we have and it pays its various corporate shareholders. You have to remember the following thing. Not one penny of your taxes has ever been used, in spite of all the baloney all Congress tells you, has ever been used to pay for the U.S. government. The purpose of the federal taxes is to pay off the holders of the shares of the Federal Reserve. Remember that. The United States government operates on a special trust. So naturally, number 3, it will abolish the income taxes in the U.S. and create a new national sales tax on new non-essential items only as a revenue for government. Plus, they have that various trust act. And if we wanted to really get into that and spend a lot of time on it, which I'm not going to do, we can talk about how these trusts are set up and how they're put in the federal budget, quote unquote, and then how they're hidden because they don't want us to know about it. So what it will do, it restores this Constitution to civilian control and common law. So this is 4. As we said, it restores constitutional law as our founding fathers so intended when they agreed to sign the Declaration of Independence. Constitutional law is based on common law. And that means that all the stuff you now have, all the do's and can't do's, are statute law. Admiralty law, law of the sea, military. The way you take that barracks flag and you show it as a symbol of military authority is you put a gold fringe around it. And if you've seen militaries marching, you will see that all their flags have this gold fringe around it. It's a military flag. So when you see the courts you're in, they are not civilian courts, they are military courts. The judge represents not the President of the United States, he represents the Queen. And we'll get into that some other time. I'm not going to do it right now. And finally, these last two, it requires the current administration to resign their positions to allow a fresh start at the national level. The administrative duties will be fulfilled according to constitutional provisions. There will be president, vice president designates, cabinet designate, etc. Their sole purpose is to run these various aspects of the administration, to make them constitutional, get rid of a lot of these independent things, etc. And it's set up, after all this change occurs, to create new elections, and these will take place about 120 days, roughly about 4 months from the start of the declaring, not only of these new governments, but of Nasara. And Nasara will, therefore, finish up by declaring world peace, enabling international banking improvements to proceed smoothly. All U.S. military aggression actions will cease immediately. We're going to go back to what we once were. This was a government that had no large standing army. A matter of fact, the Second Amendment has to do with the whole concept of maintaining a militia. And what is a militia? A volunteer army, an army that is trained. As a matter of fact, nobody has ever really invaded Switzerland because they have a militia. And because of it, they know that the entire state, the entire nation will fight. The same thing is what we want to do here with the United States. We want to make it absolutely acceptable to understand that we are not here to defend the world, and especially defend these private bankers and their greed. This is all about a new concept. So the United States will not go to war to help the banks out anymore. We're going to do it only if we, at the last second, need to do it. We're not going to really do that. Now, I've talked about writing the updates, but let me get into the meanings of all of this. Why do I keep writing? And some people say the same things. I will do it for a reason. First contact is imminent, and the major turning points in human history are all around us. We are on the verge of creating our own galactic society and our own star nation. We are in the midst of a great shift. As I said, we're creating new chakras, we're changing our RNA, DNA, we're changing the way we look at ourselves emotionally and mentally. We're returning toward not just an awareness of who and what are we, we're returning to an awareness of being fully conscious. Fully conscious means all this stuff we've been talking about, our various aspects, our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual aspects are unifying. We're going into the world of great unity. This is what the Ascended Masters did. They are the great way showers for all of this. And not only is that happening, but Mother Earth is changing and returning to her fully conscious monopolar self. I'll explain a little bit in Restoring the Solar System all about the nature, the true nature of planets. Planets are hollow. We live in a living electric universe. And the basis of all of that is zero-point energy. And we'll talk about all of that the next time we're back in the regular webinar. And we'll talk about all what that is about. And if you want to get an idea of inner Earth, because I said all planets are hollow, so you want to get a little ahead on that, one thing to look at is inner Earth, your future home, and we'll talk all about what is inner Earth, what is Agartha, which is what inner Earth is. Agartha is simply a Lemurian word. Ag means in, Artha is the Lemurian word for art, for Earth. So it just means inner Earth. Now, continuing forth, the updates show us the need to overcome nearly 13,000 years of self-perceptions. And these self-perceptions are mainly wrong. We need to replace these with new beliefs on personal sovereignty, freedom, and mass prosperity. We need to explain to ourselves in simple terms that we have extraterrestrial origins and that we are to have a reunion with our space and spiritual family. We are not alone. We are part of a great and incredible massive humanity that is part of an even greater and more incredible flow of life in all many incredible forms throughout this galaxy and throughout the universe. It's also, the updates are there to prepare us for our new governmental and financial realities, to explain about disclosure, the learning that we are not alone in our meetings with our magnificent space and spiritual families, and our meeting with our Agarthan, as I just explained what Agartha means, our inner earth family. They are our true immediate ancestors. All of us on this planet came originally from fully conscious Agarthans when they were on Lemuria. The Atlanteans chose, and we can explain that, but I haven't got the time to do it. We can explain how they made remnants of true Lemurian families in Atlantis to become who we are. So here we be. But once again, we are about to become fully conscious beings. A great transformation is underway. Now, what do the updates do? First of all, there's a word patterning. That's actually a special code whose vibrational pattern helps to energize our changing physical, mental, and emotional patterns. By looking at these words again and again and again in slightly different forms, getting different ways of these meanings, they help us to better know what is happening around us. Remember, one of the most important things about all of this is that repetition of the Galactic Federation's message raises our vibration and helps us hold the light. What we do when I give my webinars is cover all different aspects of basic subjects. And therefore, what I'm doing is help us better discern the truth and use it as a shield against the propaganda around us. We have tons of that. By becoming better informed, we will develop the tools needed to discern the truth and nature up our peace of mind as we prepare for this incredible reality shift. So as I said, these messages may seem repetitive, but they're just done again and again to reinforce what you know about your shift in consciousness. So see each message week after week as simply really being a building block that build on one another. They activate, they inform, and they bridge from where we are right now to the conscious world we're moving towards. So now let's finish up by saying, what about the announcements and first contact? The nature of the present reality makes it extremely unwise to inform anyone of specific dates, or when this is going to happen or when that's going to happen. We live in a world in which the dark still has a great degree of control. So what we need to do is explain it as best we can. The importance in all of this is not to worry about dates or is this happening, is this not happening. The important thing to happen in your mind is to know to keep a positive attitude and allow for the collective energy of all that we're talking about to manifest those events we deeply want. And if you want to get a general primer on all subjects, my book, Your First Contact, is excellent. Now, let's look at after the announcements. First thing that I would like to do is to create how PAO is organized in a much better way and use it to help PAGs organize and operate in the respective communities. An important little quote from Margaret Mead here is, I think, essential. It's one that Gandhi loved, and indeed anybody who deals with change gets to really see the importance and power of these words. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. Now, this is the Umakdan, once again. It's the, as you can see now that you've gone through all the different things I talked about, the importance and power of this particular magnificent symbol. And that why we say the key to PAO is peace and inner strength through unity. So, what are we looking at? The purpose of PAO is to inform humanity about, as I said, first contact and the Galactic Federation and its mission, and prepare humanity for full consciousness. To explain about our off-world origins, remember, we are not from here. We came here 900,000 years ago from star systems, star nations all around the galaxy. And we're going to come together again as fully conscious beings with the Agarthans who are fully conscious, and are going to create a new star nation. And we're going to use the tool that all creative, fully conscious beings use, fluid group dynamics. And an important thing of our mission after the new governance happens is to support the new governance and the new abundance. So what you see here is the very basis of all of it, first contact. First contact is the basis of all that we are about. Because of the changes being set up by vast groups with incredible resources and abilities on this planet, the secret sacred societies of the Ascended Masters around this planet, working their magic, which is just about all finished, as you'll read about in the updates. What you see here is the basic thing. All these incredible beings coming forth to planet Earth to help transform our planet and its peoples and reunite our on-Earth ancestors, who we are all indebted to, with ourselves in our newly created, fully conscious selves, to form a new star nation and create and bring forth our destiny, which you can also read about in the updates. So, with that, I will now reintroduce you to my magnificent lady. Take it away, my dear.
All right. Hey, Shel, you're getting a lot of compliments that this was very, very informative. So, good job. You know, for a lot of you, you're new to this information. I just want to let you know that on Sheldan's update website, www.paoweb.com, he does a weekly update, and that's always free. So you can go to our website and get that, or you can go to our website and sign up for our newsletter, and then it'll be sent directly to you. So what we usually do with webinars, our monthly webinars, is Sheldan speaks for an hour to an hour and 15 minutes, and then we have questions and answers for a half hour. But with this webinar, this free webinar, we're not really open up for questions because people would be all over the board in their level of understanding. So, you know, we do have so many questions, and a lot of them were very good, and we have a list of references on our website to help you find answers, excuse me, to many of your questions. So once again, you can go to our website and get that information. So Sheldan, you said welcoming home mission, and it just gave me chills, and I'm sure it gave a lot of you chills, because we all are here to have a welcoming home mission to becoming part of the galactic community again. You know, UFO sightings are on the rise, and even though a lot of people haven't seen a UFO, it's still true that the number of sightings are up substantially. Isn't that right, Shel?
Yeah, it's amazing the amount of sightings around the world that are going on right now. We have to realize deep in our hearts that we are not alone, that we are very near to a first contact mission, last part, which I was talking about. And that as a result of that, we are going to see more and more of our space family ships in the sky, because they more and more are wanting us to see them. So, of course, we have to also realize that there are governments that don't want them to see it. So sometimes they will appear, and after a while they'll have to leave. But just know that they're there.
I believe you said on Thursday that here we are only in February, and we're already up 20% from last year's total.
That's correct, yes.
So they keep your eyes on the sky, and many people are because of the meteorite. So that's good. You want to go to the next slide?
Sure, baby.
All right. here we are, our next webinar, which will be next Sunday, and then the following Thursday. So that's Sunday, February 24th at 12 o'clock, same time here, that's California time, and then Thursday, February 28th at 6 to 7:30 California's time. So it's called Resetting Our Solar System, and this one, I really like this subject. It excites me, and actually it excites Sheldan. So I think he's been putting it together, and he's just, you know, my little bliss bunny, I call him, and he's just loving this subject. So, you know, Earth is a water planet and a jewel in our solar system and galaxy, and she plays a very important role in the energy of creation and the energy of the creation of our galaxy, because she holds the singularity that created our galaxy, our Milky Way galaxy. So Sheldan will talk all about that, and he'll also talk about what other planets are we going to live on, what about restoring the asteroid belt, which will become the planet that's called Pax, and Earth's place in our galaxy, why we are so important, and all of our galaxy is focusing on us right now, and the sun, the importance in our galaxy, also what are the solar flares all up to, and the moon, is it real or man-made, and what about Pluto? So you know, we're going to be going to other planets as well, and to live on them, and so how are they going to be terraformed? Sheldan has all the answers. I personally can't wait to reset our whole solar system, and it's so beautiful. I have dreams about looking from outer space, from a spaceship, out at our different planets, and besides the other planets in our galaxy, and it's so exciting. So Sheldan really has a lot of information. And why is it important for us to know about resetting our solar system? Well, the more information we know, we already know that these announcements are going to happen. As far as when, we don't have an idea as far as the exact date. We know that it's very soon. We know that it's, I would be surprised if we went into the summer. So the next thing to know is, well, you know, what's our solar system going to look like? What are we going to be exploring? And that's why this is an important and exciting webinar. So with enough about that, I hope you can all join us. And soon and imminent, you know, so many people, Sheldan, wrote in about, when is this going to happen? Can you tell us when? And, you know, we don't have exact dates. And for me personally, I've given up asking why and when, not why, but when, because in my heart I know that all is going to happen in right divine time. So I'm happier to give that up and just to concentrate on how can I be more prepared and how can I help prepare others. The more I can help prepare others, the faster this will manifest. And the Ascended Masters, they're always reminding us to create what you want is to act as if you already have it, and to do it with your whole heart. So that's what I've decided to do, and I hope many of you share in that. Now, Sheldan, before we leave, can you just comment a little bit on why you talk about the United States so much, that Nasara is all about the United States? So many people said, what about Australia? What about Europe? Can you comment about why you talk about the United States?
Well, the United States is going to be the first major domino. So when it goes, the rest of the world will be following not too far behind it. So that's why I concentrate on it. And people who know about various ways in which the law is set up for the organization of just about all the countries in the Commonwealth, or the British Commonwealth system, know that it is possible, indeed it is probable, that once we change what goes on in the United States, it's going to change the entire Commonwealth. That's a lot of countries, and it will also change the rest of the world, since the rest of the world equally has groups of secret societies that have been working hard so that this entire planet can shift. So just know that the reason why I do that is because, as I've said, the first major domino is right here in the United States, and that's the only reason why I do that, because not only because I know about it the most, I've studied its history, I've also studied the history of the world, but the major thing for me right now, and the major thing from what the Galactic Federation tells me, is that this country is really the first domino. So it's all about the shift, so just know amazing and wonderful things are getting ready to happen.
Absolutely. It starts in the United States, but it quickly goes worldwide. Also, the prosperity goes worldwide. This is not about just the United States. It is not only a certain group of people who get prosperity. It's about unity. It's about bringing everybody to sovereignty, to prosperity, to oneness. Yay! So, well, our time is up, and it's 1:11, so I think that's a good time to say goodbye. And thank you all for joining us, and it just warms my heart every time we come together. We create a web of light that ignites the world, and nothing could bring me more joy than that. So Zazuma, as the Syrians say, heartfelt gratitude. Salamat Jah. This is Galactic Heart signing off. It's all yours, Shell.
Okay, I'm going to finish up with ending prayer. I'm going to ask the Supreme Creative Force to come down around this magnificent, wonderful, beautiful world, and let us take in all the information that has come to us during the course of this webinar, and let us be able to come together and use it to create our new reality. So be it. And once again, I want to say, Zazuma, thank you for coming. I appreciate it. I thank you very much. May the information that you have gotten today be the start of better understanding what is occurring on this planet, and use it to help create this new reality. And so that, once again, I say, Salamat Jah, be in joy. And until we come together again, and now it looks like about a week, then let us all be in peace, be in joy, and until then, enjoy and be one. So with that I say, goodbye. Salamat Jah.